Hi everyone, long time. Super happy to see you here, many people. So let's begin. So welcome to MCUG 2.0, as we call it at the moment. let's yeah. So yeah, I'm just going to give a brief introduction about why we are doing all these things and what is the plan and how the sessions are going to be conducted, and then we'll begin with the first session. So yeah, firstly, we are going virtual, not a surprise. And the reason behind it is we realized like a couple of months back that, we still are in our, academic careers. Few of us have already started working, pretty experienced already. And we have learned a lot since our undergrad. And the idea was, can we keep continuing doing the sessions that we used to a few years ago? So yeah, so the idea is nothing new. We want to just host these sessions virtually now. And technically with this method, we can give access to many more people, not only who are just restricted to MIT, maybe some other colleges as well, or virtually everyone who has an internet connection. So this time the sessions are going to be different. We decided that we don't want to invest too much time in making presentations while for these sessions, and have as much as minimum time investment. So the knowledge is there, but you don't want to invest hours and hours just to make a presentation. So instead we'll be having video cast / podcast sessions. And the idea is we want to have these sessions more conversation driven. So if you guys are familiar with any podcasts, then you might know what I'm talking about. If not, then this is going to be your first experience. Hope you like it. So how the sessions are going to be like, so there will be one person who is the person who is going to talk about the particular topic, and the other guy or the other girl is going to be asking questions and make it more seamless conversation. And yeah, we are up and running. We already have quite a lot of topics lined up. Today we start with a day in the life of software engineer, as you might know. And if you see the picture on the left, we already know who is going to take the session, how long do we plan to keep each session, and the topic for the session. And also on the D column, what you see are the names of the people who are interested in being a part of this session. So since these sessions are more conversation driven, so there's a need to invest time a bit in at least discussing what we are going to talk about in these sessions, and the people who are involved on the right. So you can form your own small community for these sessions and prepare for it. So you are not alone. And also we have interest in some sessions which we don't know who can take exactly, but we are all interested in learning more. So if you can see, we have some very pretty technical sessions, but also some sessions which are not so technical and more lighthearted, so that we all can have fun while learning. So in case you are interested in conducting any session, or if you're interested in knowing about something particular, feel free to connect to us. And how you can connect to us is on Discord. Uh, WhatsApp is fine for personal communication, but to make things more persistent and more organized, we have organized a channel, a server of on Discord, thanks to Prashant. And for each session, we are going to have a different channel where you can do live Q&A if you have any doubts, and keep the conversation going and build the community more. And if you want to be a part of the organizing side, or you want to take a session, feel free to reach to any of us. It's quite a big team already, and I'm highly grateful to all of them because they've contributed in making this a reality. We started planning about this since June, but yeah, due to some problems, it takes time. But finally, we are here, and we plan to take one session a month at least. So let's hope we get more folks joining in and taking these sessions. So yeah, let's begin. So I'll stop my screen share and I'll start. Yeah, so today's session is from one of my awesome friends, Ajinkya Shendre. He is a software engineer at Cerner Corporation. He's done his master's in computer science at UMBC. Uh, and Ideally, so he'll be debunking some myths about the profession for folks who are looking to for such a role or have already been a part of this role, might learn something new, or it might be a repetition for you. But either way, I guess I hope you all learned something out of it. So yeah, let's begin, Shendre.
Yo,
Uh,
welcome everyone.
yeah, so the first question, yeah, I mean, what motivated you to take this session?
So the main motivation behind the session was so when I got my offer from Cerner Corporation, the only thing I knew that I would be doing when I'll be joining the company was I would be developing some kind of software applications, and that was it. And but when I actually went in and started with my career or started as a software engineer, I got to know or I was exposed to many more different things. So like in our during our masters or for that matter any education, we just are taught that we need ABC technical skills and we should know how to write a code in Java, Python, etc., etc. But then we are never taught about how a project comes, what's the life cycle of a project, how a project starts from a thought to actual deployment, and that is very important in enterprise market or in a big enterprise corporations. So that is something which I think if it's there's no harm if you don't know, because any which ways you would be learning and learning these concepts. But personally, what I feel is if you know something it'll a little bit in advance, it's you get better experience in future. You learn better. You might have some questions you can answer or you can ask, or there are a few doubts which get solved. So I think having a little information or some idea about what you're gonna go into will definitely help you. And I think that was the main motivation, just to share my experiences so that others who think having this knowledge would help them will uh, that would help them and make them a better software
Definitely. And what do you think are the skills that a software engineer needs apart from the basic programming?
engineer. So for software engineer, everywhere, as like when people start applying for different software engineer roles, and if you actually go through the requirements, development is of course there, but then we are required to have good communication skills. People always, like, there's this myth, or even for me it was this myth, that developers or software engineers just sit in a cubicle, write code 9 to 5 and go home.
Yeah.
But in reality it's not that. Like let's to be very honest, there are few days in my or like business hours that I don't write a single line of code. It's more of attending meetings, planning, and talking to others, syncing up. So interaction is very important. Communication skills are also very important, and few other um, skills which I would say we need to adapt to are time management and estimation. So here, because we are in a enterprise market, there are certain hard deadlines which we have to follow. And working in such deadlines is sort of a skill. Like if you don't know anything at the start, but you have to finish it in, say, a week or two, learning that technology, how to use it and make a very good product or passing all the checks is a skill in itself. So develop, of course, having good development knowledge or good technical knowledge is a must, but I would say interaction, communication skills, planning, time management, these are also few key factors which we think we should have or we should develop.
Right. And there's not much focus, I believe, right? Like, I don't think I've had any, apart from soft skills, the one course that we all did probably some time ago.
Yeah, I mean, to be very honest, there's a very huge gap between what we are taught in our universities and what we are actually doing in our companies. So somehow, if there is a way in future, if they can bridge this gap, I think it would be very helpful. Yeah.
Nice plugin, by the way. Uh, so, so how does your day begin? I mean, what do you do? What does the schedule look like?
So for me, usually I have my day starts at 9 a.m. It's like the typical 9 to 5. I struggle waking up at 8:30. I try to wake up, but I have to. I start brewing my coffee. That's the first thing I do, and then at 9 a.m. every day. So on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, sorry, on Wednesdays and Fridays, I have a meeting called Scrum, or people call it Stand Up, at 9 a.m. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have the same meeting at 8:45.
Okay.
And this is how we start. This is the first thing in my day is I do a meeting,
Hmm.
and
So,
then
can you
we
elaborate on what is Scrum exactly?
Yeah, so Scrum is basically called a stand-up meeting, or it's a meeting wherein everybody on the team they come on. So because it's virtual right now, so everybody comes on a video call and they update on their current task they are working on. So when it's my turn, I tell them inform them what I did yesterday. If I faced any issues yesterday, I would discuss that. Then I would tell them what I would be doing today. And then this is like my personal what do you say uh, things what we are be doing. And then in the end, like when everybody on the team is done with their updates, if anybody has to discuss any issues which he or she thinks if everybody collaborates might help to get the answers quickly, we do that. That is called like a scrum lot. Sometimes it's called parking lot. These are some terms used in the meeting. And after this, yeah, we start with the day. So once we are done with the scrum, so to add on to it, scrum is basically a part of agile methodology, which is basically a planning or strategy concepts which we use, which basically major enterprises use for building software applications. So for example, if we have a big website, like let's say we want to develop flipkart.com, so it is just an idea that a client wants to build a website for its e-commerce business. So from that idea, different product owners in the company would go into technicality, like from how to make that idea into a technical blueprint. And then once we have that technical blueprint, we try to divide into small modules.
Right.
Usually it all depends from company to company, but for us, the small modules are like, if I pick the module should not be more than 8 hours long. So if I pick a per module to develop, it shouldn't take more than 8 hours to finish. That is 8 developing hours. So that is the main thinking behind how to uh, break down a problem statement.
Mhm.
And the reason we do this is it's easier to build smaller modules rather than taking up onto a big umbrella of feature to um, develop. And it's very difficult for a single person to work on everything.
Yeah.
So for us, as we'll discuss in the session further, we have code reviews wherein they specifically ask us not to have code reviews more than 200 lines. If
Mm.
there were some times where I had those 300, 400 lines, and they made me to separate or divide it
Yeah.
into two different modules. So it just makes us easier for the developer to develop it. And the main agenda behind this breakdown is, in the end, if we are not able to, or for some reason we are not able to meet the deadlines, at least we can develop a minimal viable product and give it to the client, and then inform the client that these are the ABC features which are still left, which would we be producing or giving away up as future updates, and then you can use them.
Right. And is the Scrum meeting the only kind of meeting that you attend, or are there different types of meetings?
No, of course. So Scrum is like, there are multiple different kinds of meetings in my calendar, and specifically in Agile, there are different types of meetings we have. So Scrum is basically the first or the updates meeting where people just give in updates. Then there is specifically a planning meeting in Scrum. So in Agile, we have to plan. There is this concept called sprint, which is basically a duration of couple of weeks where we um focus on that what all tasks we would be performing or we would be working on these couple of weeks. So we call it as a sprint. So we have sprint planning meeting wherein we have a pool of all the tasks we already created. But depending upon the priority, depending upon the deadline, we just take only those tasks into our sprint, which we know that we need to develop or finish them in this sprint, and then move forward. So this is a planning meeting. Another kind of a meeting is a backlog meeting where we go over again the same pool of tasks where and look for what all tasks have been blocked or what all tasks which have been created but we forgot to pull in into the actual iteration, or are there any tasks which now we don't require or we need to add. So basically sort of updation of the pool itself. And sometimes like for us the backlog meeting and the planning meeting we collaborate, so it's just one meeting wherein we do the backlog and the planning. And another kind of a meeting is called like a retrospective meeting, wherein the meeting usually occurs at the end of the sprint where we discuss or we go over what all things went good in this iteration, what all things went bad in this iteration, and if there were any bad things, what went wrong and how we could have solved it, and which measures we should take so that we shouldn't face that same issue in future.
Wow.
So these are the parts of sort of agile meetings. And then there are other managerial meetings where we have one-on-ones with my manager, we have one-on-ones with my supervisor. Then collaboration is a very big part of software development enterprise. So we collaborate between two different teams. So we have those teams meeting as well.
Meeting, right.
And
I have a
then
very personal question actually regarding
uh,
this. So, like, in terms of meetings, like, even I've been a part of few Scrum meetings while working, but I felt very disconnected at times, because it's probably my first month or, first few months, and I'm like, okay, what is going on? Because you don't really understand the big picture, right?
true.
So, have you experienced it as well? And if you have, then like, is there any sort of advice you would like to give to the future software engineers, like how they can, deal with it?
Of course, like I mean, so for me, it's been like what 7 months I'm working in Cerner, and out of those 7 months, for a couple of for the initial 3 months I was in my training, and then I went on to joining a team.
Mm.
So when I went started in my team, I was invited to all these meetings, planning meetings, backlog meetings, and of course, when at this point I'm new to everything. So to be honest, what I do is I just sit in the meeting with just looking on my screen, and all my supervisors are saying A, B, C, D, and sometimes I have no idea what they talk about. But I think this is normal for your initial time period because you're learning in your learning phase.
Mhm.
Sometimes you may feel disconnected. It happens that you start wandering here and there.
Mhm.
That's normal, I think. But we should try to read, or we should try to listen what our supervisors or other managerial people are talking about. Try to get an idea what tasks are they doing, because sometimes like in the planning meeting they explain you the reasoning for this task. So if it is difficult, you can jot down the points you think you are interested in, or some tasks which you think was intriguing, so you can just make some notes and then talk to your supervisor. I
Mhm.
have did that. I had few tasks which I thought would be interesting to work on. I approached my supervisor that this seems interesting, and because that task was not a priority, it was not pulled in and was not assigned to me. But then me and my supervisor, we work as a side project
Project.
on it. So it's more of like me learning a different programming language and going through it.
Okay, so it's not
So
like the junior folks can't contribute at all, in these meetings. Like
no,
that's
no, no.
the way.
They of course ask you. sometime, but then initially it would be difficult, but you have to take some efforts, put in some efforts. In the start period, you might feel overwhelmed with all the information, but then again, if you use the agile methodology in your personal life, break down into small points and then read over it, it will definitely help you.
That's really nice. So yeah, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the coding part of being a software engineer, right? So as like you mentioned earlier that there are days when you don't have to code at all. So if I have to split in terms of, okay, out of the 7 months you spent, like how much would you split 100% into your coding part and your non-coding part?
So let's go on a weekly basis. I'm not sure if I can say for the 7 months time.
Yeah.
I think for a weekly basis, there are, yes, actually on Thursdays usually I just spend like 1 hour or 2 hour coding because my entire calendar on Thursday have meetings.
Wow.
The only thing I do on Thursdays are go in this meeting, go in that meeting, all that. Monday is the day where I have very less, like I think I just have one meeting, so that is the day where I spend the most on coding. So on a weekly basis, I think on like uh 5 days a week, somewhere around not more than 50%
Wow.
is the actual time I code, and the rest 50% is something goes into my planning, goes into attending meetings, goes into other um,
Right.
non-technical, non-managerial meetings.
Right. I think this is like big takeaway, for all the listeners maybe, because we just solve assignments while doing our masters or and bachelors,
That
and
was one of the big myths. Like I had that. The only thing I would do when once start joining, or once I start my software engineer would be, I would just code. I had no idea about these kind of meetings we have or this kind of culture a company follows.
mm,
So it was a real eye opener for me.
yeah, I think yeah, we as we as software engineers, like considering our graduation and our college degrees kind of times. So we did our assignments independently, and it was like, okay, you do this and you submit it on your portal and things like that. So how is that the case when you do your job as well? Like, I don't think so.
To be honest, no. Um, in we do work on individual level. We go and do write our own code, but that code is already been planned out in a group meeting, so I already know what I'll be writing. There are a few times where I have to investigate on my own that these are the things, because while actually developing or writing the source code, you come across some situations or some scenarios created wherein you have to go, and the plan you had in your mind is not working anymore, so you have to look for a workaround. So there are some times where you have to investigate on a personal level. But then, as I said, we have n number of meetings. We have constant meetings for a single project, and all those meetings, this is what we discuss: what to write, how to make it more efficient. Because what I think is, I know someone who is really intelligent can write a good code, but
Mhm.
10 such intelligent people working together, we can write an excellent code.
Right.
So collaboration is a key factor, or it's practiced very often. So as of now, at this moment, I'm actually not working alone on a project. I'm practicing peer programming. Peer programming is basically two people working together on the same project. So we share, we go through the source code, we develop everything together, like we discuss, and we write the code. We split the tasks amongst ourselves and we develop it. So and people do this sometimes just to, in a pair of a senior developer and a junior developer. So if there's, like, for me, as I'm a new joinee, doing peer programming helps me to grow faster, because the senior developer has already gone through all these things. He or she will help me go through all the concepts, and instead of going around looking, Google searching this and that, my senior at software engineer already knows the solution. And
Okay.
in the end, we need to know what we have to do. So instead of going here and there, just ask him or ask her, and you can it's more efficient and faster.
Right. And yeah, we have Raut sir in the chat. Hi sir. And sir has a request on telling the listeners how your college life has actually helped, because obviously we are saying that some things that don't help, but how has it helped would be a nice addition.
College life, of course. So the crux of being a software engineer is the technical aspects. So
Mm,
that is what we actually learn
mm,
from uh, in the college, and then sometimes I think working on a problem statement is something which I think helped us as a software engineer, because in universities or in colleges we have that environment where we get an assignment, or we are sitting in front of a computer, we have a time because we have a practical exam in front of us, we
right.
have a deadline, we have 1 hour 45 minutes whatever, and we have to develop that code. So we have to figure it out, that what all or what the problem statement is and how I have to break down so that I can perform, if I can write my code and test it as well.
Mhm.
So this is something which starts at college level, of course, because if not that, I'm not sure what. There are self-taught programmers, but I think college or universities have a big advantage over them. They give we have a at least I have an idea of what I would be doing. Managerial stuff is something which is very specific
Yeah.
to companies.
Yeah.
Having that knowledge helps, but I think development or technical knowledge is something you should always have, because there are very few companies who actually give you training on how to on a particular framework or some particular technology which they be using, or else
And
they just assume that you know.
it's the primary skill that you need, right? I mean, you can be a
It is
great
the skill
engineer
you need to go in this
and
in this
exactly.
market. So yeah, I think
I
that is
mean,
what you get from universities.
definitely. I think that's the primary filter. Nobody will really test your interpersonal skills in the first round of your interview. Yeah, yeah, makes
Past
sense.
interview, they won't even ask you what you know. They just assume that this is the problem statement which you have to perform.
Have to perform, right. You should, and those skills are basically that you acquire during your degrees.
True.
Yeah, great. So you've been talking a lot about this collaboration. So are there any specific tools that you use, or is it just more like a conversation?
So, like for now, again, because things are virtual for meeting and all, we use this Microsoft Teams for, I'm not promoting it by any means here, but just because I'm using that's what I'm telling. Uh, we use it for meetings and talking to each other, conversing and all. And for development purposes, we use this tool called or service called GitHub. I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but I'll just give a small brief idea about what GitHub is. GitHub is a service which is basically used for maintaining a source code and working in collaboration. So, in simple terms, let's say there is a source code on the cloud or on github.com. And as I said, that we have different small modules where multiple people work together. So, all of them can basically copy that source code for their own development, make their own changes, and then add those changes to the copy of or the main actual copy of so a blueprint of the source code. This
Right.
is just a gist of GitHub, what GitHub or what Git basically is in the background. GitHub, again, it's a session in itself. So if anybody here would like to hear more about it, we can
Yeah,
definitely arrange something on it.
but it's
So
a
this is a
must-have skill.
collaborative tool.
Like
Sorry.
it's a must-have skill as a software
Yeah,
engineer,
I
as
mean,
a developer.
GitHub in itself, earlier when GitHub started, it started with version control systems, but now what GitHub is altogether, like there are a few companies which use GitHub for their entire development lifecycle, like from planning, from development, from deployment, everything is on GitHub.
Wow.
So it's in today's world, it's a very powerful tool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we are still in this coding aspect of the session. So, one question again, coming from a very personal side, like we build things from scratch, right? Like even during our projects and things like that. So it's always like, okay, there's nothing out there in the world. Whatever we are doing is the only source code that is available on this planet. So yeah, let's build it from scratch. But is that the case while you're working as a software developer, or like do you get things already and then you build on top of it?
So building from scratch is not the term should be used, because of course if you're developing something, there are things where you write code, you have to put in some extra code lines. But then yeah, in corporate world, what I would say is there are sometimes days or times wherein you have to develop new features for your project. So there is the place where you develop everything from scratch, as what we say, try to do investigation, write code from ground up, and then add that source code to the actual product. But then sometimes there are few things where you have to update, you have to make some bug fixes. So in these situations, the boilerplate code is already present. You just have to read the code, understand the code, and make the required changes.
Yeah.
And I would like to actually add one point, like in the benefits after you get into software engineer is one of the skills you should have is understanding other people's code. That's a very, very important skill you should have, because as we are in a collaborative environment, we work in a collaborative area, there'll always be a chance where you'll end up working on someone else's code,
Definitely.
because it was difficult for me to go through someone else's code, understand what they have written and how they have written, and then incorporate the changes. Because till now, we just wrote our own code and or our own assignment and went ahead. But then this skill is also really important to have.
So how important is commenting in a code in such situation?
So the way we come used to come, like we don't have to comment every single line or every single code module we have. It's more of a high level. So like in object-oriented programming, just have a brief description of what the class does on top of the class, and on every function what this function is doing. And even though there are this is like there are all once you start programming, you would get to know that there are what you say there are different types. Yeah, there is a specific way to write a comment. We just can't write A, B, C, F, G. There is certain format, like in Java docs, there is a sort of a proper format where you have to mention what the parameters are, what the result is. There are different tags we have to use. There are the way we frame the comments line. There are like proper listings or the proper way of doing it. What we used to do earlier, like we just whatever we used to think about the function, we just used to write about it.
Right.
But you have to think a bit, because you know what you're working on, but when someone else is trying to read that code, that person should be able to understand what that comment is explaining you. And that
Yes.
is where you have to think about everybody, not just what you know.
Going a bit of tangent here, I think Raut sir has already put it in the chat. So I was asking like about Stack Overflow. So can you tell me how important is Stack Overflow in your
I would
life?
say Stack Overflow is the Bible of for software engineers. I'm not sure if this would uh, make others happy or relieved, but we don't have to know everything in coding.
Mm,
What I do is go to Stack Overflow, search for my issues,
mm,
copy the code, and sometimes paste it all together on my
okay. But you need to understand
so
something, right? I mean,
of
because
course
not
you
everyone
just
can
can't
manage.
just copy, and you have to understand it. You have to see if what that code is doing is
Okay.
required or satisfies the needs for your requirement. But then Stack Overflow is actually very, very important. Uh, just not because for copying the code, it's more of you get to understand or get to learn how different experienced programmers can do the same thing you are doing in a more efficient way. Like you have that logic in your head for performing some problem statement of yours, but there are better ways to do it.
Mm,
And I think Stack Overflow is the best place, or one of the best places, where you get to learn or you're exposed to such people where they can share that what you did is good,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a better way of doing it, because in the end, one of the important factors for a software application is it should be highly efficient, fast enough, and scalable. So these are like what three pillars of software, or for any software applications.
I
So
have one add-on for Stack Overflow.
Sure,
I
sure.
usually go on Stack Overflow just to see the syntaxes because every coding language has their own syntax and you cannot really remember everything. It's finally the logic behind the code that is in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just refer Stack Overflow for seeing the syntax,
Yeah.
which I can incorporate in my code. And finally, it's the logic in your head, I feel.
Mm. Yeah.
yeah,
Hopefully both of them match, yeah. Like the logic in your head and the stack of match.
I mean, because in this
No,
corporate world, it's not fixed which programming language you'll be working on. It depends on project to project. So you
Yeah.
have to, of course, you can't just have everything in your head.
Yeah.
and
You
exactly.
can, you are a
So
superpower, so I'm not.
Yeah. So,
mo- it doesn't need to be a probably match also. Like you are searching for something, but you get to know something completely else of
True.
doing the same thing, and you probably wouldn't have thought of it. So that's the learning thing part. That's what I feel.
yeah, that's
True.
also. Yeah.
So it plays an important role, basically, and that's the gist. It's very important.
Also,
Just to
answering on
Yeah.
it also helps a lot. Like, get to know a lot about questions, like what issues people face and how like your past experiences can help people as well to get like some reputation there as well.
Definitely.
We work.
It's a good habit to even answer questions and not just look for solutions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very, yeah, we should all strive to do that, let's say.
As philosophers say, you should give back to your community. So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
just to add what Shendre was saying, so we know that in industry we might not have to implement features from scratch, and we have to modify the codes, but developing features on your own from scratch definitely helps to understand that how are you going to modify others code. So if people are just copying things from here and there and not understanding, that will definitely not help them in future or help anyone in future. But it is important to understand how things work if you want to actually, even if you're copying things, because in industry we have to copy things. It's not like, you just go on Stack Overflow, you refer them and you find the solution, you work it out, but you understand how it's
Uh,
helping to
how is
solve the
important?
bug, and how it's helping to enhance the feature.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks, Akriti.
Totally
So,
agree with this.
yeah, let's move towards like the final part of our session, which is like, does your day always look like this? Or, are there variations?
There are, so sometimes, as I said, I have, because usually it's not because of we have being virtual. There are some times where you need a break from what you do.
Yeah.
It's not always meeting or working towards the corporation or working towards the product. Sometimes the team in itself, we go out for lunch meetings, or we go out for lunch, just hang out, just disconnect from the work. Now, as it's not possible, so we have virtual lunch hours, we have virtual happy hours. Sometimes we just arrange some meetings where we talk anything but the work. So people discuss about their plan. They're going on this trip. They got a pet.
Yeah.
That how kids are annoying them. How everything A to Z. So I think these kind of meetings are required, because you can't just work all the time with development or some managerial stuff. A break is needed. It sort of helps you reset your brain, reset your mind, and helps you to grow. And when you again start, you are all recharged and energized to work.
Yeah.
And on the development side, of course, this is one kind of day I have. There is another kind of software development task which we have, and that's called a support task.
Mhm.
I have, because I am a recent joinee, I have not been on a support week, but what support usually, or the person who on support does is, there are sometimes when clients or in team people, they face some issues on the frameworks which have been up and running in the company. So sometimes some network failures arrive or some homepage is not responding. So they log a ticket mentioning that this is the issue they are facing, and these issues or these tickets which are generated, they go to the engineer who is on support, and then it's that engineer's responsibility either to fix those issues or to find someone or ask someone around how can that issue be fixed, or assign that task to someone else. So this is on a rotation basis, like depends from company to company how long the support. Usually it's for a week, sometimes more than a week, but again depends from company to company, and it comes like on a rotation basis. Like everybody on a team would be on a support week for a week, let's say, and then if like there are 7 people on a team, after every 7 weeks I would be on a support. So I won't be doing any development tasks. If I don't have if I have sufficient time to work on development tasks, then I can, but sometimes people sort of just have to work on the support tickets.
Yeah, let's talk about another challenging part, at least considering these times that are going on. It's must be very challenging, to work remotely, because I don't think any of us have worked for so long
True.
remotely. So can you talk about some challenges that you faced personally and how you dealt with it, if you're okay about it?
Yeah, so the one of the major, I think, issues I faced being virtual is we in today's world, collaboration is so important. Like everything we work is in a team or in collaboration. Doing that virtually is very hard. I mean, and it's very difficult to get hold of people or basically express yourself on doing that all on a video call. That is something every company is trying to figure out how they can make it better. And being a junior or a new joinee as a software developer, as I said, we do peer programming. I work with my supervisor or work with other colleagues. Syncing with them is also a task. Sometimes if I'm stuck at some issues, or I'm facing some issues and I'm stuck on it, I ping my supervisor that this is the problem I'm facing, and if you could help me, or if you can have a quick call about it, so that we can discuss it and move on. Getting that reply itself can take hours, so because he or my pro supervisor or my manager, they are themselves busy with something else. Had it been physical office, I would have just went on his or her desk, would have pinged him, that nudge him, ki, help me, this is where I'm stuck, and things would have been much better. So but then I think the only issue or the only solution is that plan. And sometimes there is a lot of weight involved in such situations,
Right.
but
And
we
as
can't do
you
anything
guys
about
earlier
it.
mentioned as well, like it's okay to not know everything. So if you're
Yeah.
stuck, I mean, it's always a better idea to
Of
spend
course, you can
time
start
ask.
looking around for by your own what the situation, what the solution is for the problem you're facing. That like we have to do that, but then it's sometimes there is a long waiting period involved, and uh, I think it would have been better. Things would have been much better if the situation was not like this.
I think if you are stuck, taking a break is important.
Yeah, agreed.
Breaks are necessary. Like if you don't take breaks on a daily basis after like 1 or 2 hours, you won't be able to work for
But
9 to 5. Like
at the
for the
same,
one, even like for the entire day, you have to have breaks in between.
yeah, I hope you've gotten used to it and improved your efficiency since how in the beginning.
Initially, it was difficult. I was not able to time my things like usual. Even my managers were all like said that you shouldn't, like they don't expect me to work beyond 5 p.m. because that's like the business hours. But as this is my first job and becoming virtual, I couldn't pace things properly. There were some times where I was trying to wrap up things till 9, 10, 11 p.m. in the night. So there were times where I had to struggle, but slowly but surely now things are under control and I'm getting used to it.
That's good. Happy for you, man.
But I
Uh,
miss my office though.
so yeah, so like one last question. I think it's been going on in the chat for a while. Like for aspiring software engineers or juniors who are listening actually to this conversation, are there any technical aspects or like any particular courses that they need to really focus on? Because we do a lot of courses, right, over our period of. So, are there any specific courses that have helped you, or you think that these are essentials? You should know or you should be good at.
So basics everyone should know is data structures and algorithms because that is the crux for everything.
Yeah.
Because even before job, you have to crack the interviews, and this is all they ask. Like
Mhm.
majority of them, they have interviews based on data structures and algorithms. So you have to know this. You should know all the time complexities, runtime of worst case, best case, and uh, you should at least know one programming language thoroughly. If not, if you are not an expert, that's fine, but at least you should have your own ways, or you should be able to debug and use, given any problem statement, you can use the data structures using that programming language to solve it. This is the main, I think, I would say, for any junior developers or someone who has no experience to work towards.
Mhm.
And if you're specifically targeting some specific role in software engineers, like you can have a full stack software engineer which works on developing the front end, back end, or basically the full stack of web development. So having some dummy projects of your own
Like
can help
portfolio.
you, yeah, can help you get at least a shot at that interview. So if you want to work in website development, so working or developing some small project of your side projects, putting it on your GitHub nowadays, GitHub is like your resume rather than actual paper resume.
Wow.
So make and develop projects and just put it on your GitHub profile and add that link to your resume you share.
Mhm.
Because everybody who has that link, I'm pretty sure the recruiter or HR who is viewing your profile would go on your github.com, and they would there see all, because they know the technical aspects because you have done that. So they know you know how to develop a front end, or if you are using React framework, they know how we have used React. So you have a little bit of idea what React is. So that's a plus point for you and your employer. So I think if you're targeting some special role, do some dummy projects based on that. And if not, if you're general to just going for software engineer roles, then I think data structures and algorithms would be the main priority.
Yeah. Thanks again. Yeah. Like I think it's we have 6 minutes left. So yeah, let's wrap up this session and move on to Q&A if any. And thanks again, Ajinkya. Like it was awesome. I think I learned a lot from you, and hope to
Thank you
continue.
for having me.
Cool. So guys, okay, there are lots of things going on the chat and Zoom. So let's have a look there and maybe even Discord if any. So guys, please spam the link in the chat, like if you can give access to Discord. So Discord is our platform for connecting virtually, like, being in touch or asking any sort of questions. And yeah, I don't see anything in Discord apart from why is this Discord created. So let's check maybe Zoom chat if we have anything. Yeah, we've answered. Yeah. Yeah, I guess we've answered most of the questions. Do you see anything else in there? Oh,
Raut sir has questions about
Now
Discord.
sir has questions. Yeah, so Prashant, maybe you can elaborate on this since we
Yeah.
had a discussion on why we chose Discord over Slack. So maybe you can elaborate here.
So yeah, like Discord started as a good collaborating platform for gamers, but like they are now kind of converting towards other stuff as well. So it's a good platform for collaboration. That's about it. That's why we are using Discord. Plus, it's a server-based thing, so you can, do a lot of changes according to how you want your server to be. So that is the only reason we are using Discord. It's user-friendly. That's about it.
Yeah,
Can
and like
add
just
to
to
that.
add, maybe we started with Discord because, yeah, since we are all in different parts of the world right now, it's hard to meet in person, and also because Corona added. So we need like a common platform where we can schedule these things or have discussions or plan the entire event. Because yeah, and for that Discord really helps. Also, for each session, we plan to have a separate channel so that the speaker or if anyone else in the community can help you answer those questions. And it can be an ongoing discussion rather than just ending the session here. Because, yeah, I
Yeah.
believe we
Yeah,
have.
Zoom chats are not persistent, so like Discord will help a lot in terms of having persistent chats. So anyone can just go back and see the Q&As and like get an idea about what happened and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you have a
So
question on Discord.
yeah,
I see a question on Zoom group chat as well, and one question on Discord. So
I think let's go for the question on Discord first. So user var4609 is asking that how do you approach
That's
the
me,
personal
sorry.
growth aspect, learning new skills, growing in your role? So this is a good question actually. Once you are in your software engineering role or working as a software engineer, you should always be open for all the new opportunities you get and all the new tasks you get. Be open to everything, because earlier, for me, I'll share my personal experience that I was very adamant that I would like to work only on Python or Java projects because those were the two languages which I was very comfortable with. But I think having an open mind, because now I'm working on Ruby, a programming language, and there is another programming language called Groovy. So never worked on these two before, but then the work or the task or the project which I'm working on, they're very interesting. So just don't restrict yourself on some certain programming language and always be open to other opportunities you have. And also when you are part of a corporation, you have to be out there for yourselves. You have to ask around that I need XYZ projects, or I would like to work on these different projects of which we have in our project pools, because they don't know if you want to work on this or not. So be curious about other things, be open for different opportunities, and I think this would definitely help you grow in in your life and in corporate world as well.
We
To
have another
add to
question.
Shendre's answer, I would say that if you know that there is a particular role you are interested in, sometimes companies look for what you did that you were not required to do. Like, for example, personal projects. So those are some things which are really important these days. That is something I'm currently observing. So when you are in a company and working something, or when you are working on a role, those are your responsibilities, and that is something you learn. But what is something that you did that was not required of you, and what are the initiatives you took, like for example hackathons or conferences or certifications? Those could be very important for your personal growth.
Definitely. And attending sessions like this. Let's plug it in.
I see one question from
Yeah.
Noah Pova asking, have you ever had to deal with difficult coworkers? How should one handle those situations? Of course, life is not easy on you. You would find people who would I won't say annoy you, but it's difficult to cope up with them. But then that is part of your life. You have to work with some people because they are on your team, and sometimes you don't have a matching wavelength with them. But I think instead of just rambling and not being polite to them is not the solution. Maintaining a safe distance in the social distancing time, I think, is the better thing to do. And just be little hope, like let them at least have a hint that like for example, sometimes it happens that in pair programming, you would feel that it's now your time, it's time to go and have your own individual work, but your teammate would think that he or she is not ready at this point. But I think for doing, you should stand for your own. You should have your own stance that I have to work, but then you should always offer help also, that let's do this together. Encourage them to do that as well, and I think be there for them. Like just don't black out and say that now I'm done, I'm all on my own, and you are on your own. So there would be times where you would have such coworkers, but I think handling it with grace and not being rude to them is the only thing you should do, or only professional thing you should do.
Yeah, and like maybe I can add here a bit. Like on the flip side, maybe others find you annoying as well, you know.
Of
So
course,
you
of
are
course.
still working and things are still going smooth. So yeah, so in that sense, maybe even you should be on the
I,
safe side.
I know.
Great. So yeah, if there are any more questions, guys, please post it on Discord. We want to.
Someone is typing.
Okay, sure. And on a different note, maybe it will be a nice idea, Shendre, if you can share your LinkedIn and your contact, if any, if you want, so that people can connect you and
Sure.
ask you at a more personal level
Hmm.
any question. And guys, if you are interested in taking any session, this is the first session. So I'm sure there must have been things that we can improve or work on. So we'll be sharing a feedback form for this particular session and the same channel where you are asking your questions on Discord. So please answer them. It will help us to figure out, you know, where we can improve or what else can we do. And maybe if any session you are particularly interested in. And yeah, is there any question? So yeah, VB has a question. Ajinkya, if you want to take it up.
So since we are all working from home, it's easy to work in isolation and not connect with colleagues beyond your immediate team. How are you coping with the situation in terms of virtual networking? So yeah, I mean, I'm not a proponent of being virtual, to be very honest. I I would prefer to go to office and work and be around people. So for me, in my personal opinion, I don't like this, but then because of the situation, we have no other option to do, or no other option to have. So it is sometimes very difficult because you wake up, you work, and you once you are working, you work on it, and after you're done, you are still all there alone and nobody else. And during forget about that, like even for collaboration, it's difficult to basically communicate with people. So it's it is like it is what it is right now, but then I think we have to cope up with it, and we have to give a little more time for things to do. Things will be slow, but don't feel bad about it, and I think just go along with it.
Yeah, and I think like,
Add, okay, go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead, go ahead, go
No,
ahead.
I mean to add on to this, a lot of companies have virtual happy hours. I mean, at least my company does. So, I mean, if your company doesn't have that, I mean, that's something that you can take up with the HR or whoever is responsible for all those things, and that really helps. I mean, because that is a
Companies are trying to
platform.
do that. Yep.
Yes, yeah, because that is one platform where you get to interact with all the cross teams.
And yeah, there's a question on when we will have our next session. To be honest, I don't know. We are still working. I mean, we all have something else going on at a very high level. So, yeah, whenever we find time, we will. But at least personally, the aim is to have one session a month. So, and whenever we are ready with the session, we'll again post it on Discord. Let's keep the Discord server running so that we can add more people. And also, we have recorded this session, Prashant.
Yeah,
So
please be a
yeah, we will figure out a way to share it and again notify you.
Oh, so I'll be able to share the link to the meeting with the appropriate password. So all you need is that. I'll post it on Discord so you can access it whenever you want. I am hoping it will work for the next 1 month or so. I think they delete the data after that.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll figure out if we can do anything more persistent. But yeah, join Discord, guys. I think that's the way to connect with us again. And thank you. I guess we can end the session now.
Yeah, so I mean, if, as they've said, if anyone has any more questions that they want to ask, you can just use Discord. I'm pretty sure Ajinkya will answer you or anyone else who would like to answer. So that should be about it.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to say anything, like from you guys, if you have anything to say, any feedback or something, we can have 5 or 10 minutes for that as well.
Sure.
Complete silence. That's okay then.
Yeah, I'll share the feedback form, guys. So please check Discord and fill it up. It will help us improve our future sessions. And do get in touch if you're interested in being a part of the admin community. I mean, we want to grow and we want to learn as well from you all. So yeah, let's stay in touch.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was a good
Bye-bye.
experience.